Chapter 3. The Genesis Mission, the birth of the Fiscal-AI industrial state. How Project Genesis becomes the operating system of Treasury dominance. Project Genesis is being sold as a science initiative, an innovation accelerator, a national AI platform. But in truth, Genesis is the architecture that transforms the U.S. government into an AI-augmented fiscal powerhouse and permanently shifts economic command from the Federal Reserve to the Treasury. This chapter breaks down what Genesis actually is, why it represents the largest expansion of state capacity since World War II, how it integrates with Treasury power, and why it becomes the backbone of the new macro regime. Genesis is the first fully articulated, state-directed AI industrial policy in American history. It is not a program, it is an operating system. iGenesis is a Manhattan project for economic power. The executive order explicitly frames Genesis as a historic national mobilization, comparable to the Manhattan Project, comparable to Apollo-era industrial science, a whole-of-government integration of data, compute, labs, and industry. The ambition is not incremental, it is transformative. Genesis is built to unify DOE national labs, secure AI compute clusters, cloud-based supercomputing, robotic laboratories, federal datasets across every scientific and industrial domain, universities and private sector innovators, national security infrastructure. The mission: accelerate AI-driven discovery in every domain critical to national power: energy, materials, biotech, semiconductors, defense, environment, and manufacturing. But the real implication is deeper. America is building sovereign AI infrastructure and placing it under agencies aligned with fiscal authority, not monetary authority. This is where Besant's thesis becomes reality. 2. The American Science and Security Platform, the new state brain. At the core of Genesis is the American Science and Security Platform, ASSP, essentially a national AI supercomputing brain with unified access to federal datasets. This platform integrates the nation's strongest HPC clusters, AI training environments, simulation engines, predictive models, synthetic data generation, AI agents capable of running autonomous research workflows. This is more than R&D acceleration. This is the creation of a state-level cognition layer, a government with unified data, unified compute, automated hypothesis generation, automated experimentation, AI-directed manufacturing, AI-generated scientific breakthroughs, secure access to every dataset that matters, is no longer dependent on monetary engineering to generate economic outcomes. It can manufacture growth. This is the heart of the macro shift. Third, Genesis turns the Treasury into an AI-accelerated industrial allocator. Industrial policy requires capital, direction, data, compute, research, experimentation, national-scale production. Historically, the U.S. government had capital, Treasury, direction, the White House, monetary stabilization, Fed, but it lacked computation, unified datasets, accelerated R&D, automated manufacturing experiments, AI-native scientific capacity. Genesis closes the loop. Now the Treasury has the industrial command tools that previously did not exist, enabling it to direct capital with scientific precision. This is how monetary power shifts. 1. Treasury sets fiscal priorities, AI, semiconductors, energy, materials. 2. Genesis generates and validates the scientific and industrial pathways. 3. Treasury funds those pathways with targeted deficits, subsidies, credits, and incentives. 4. Private capital is pulled into the same aligned sectors. 5. The Fed accommodates the liquidity needed to support this regime. This is the model of a fiscal AI industrial state. 4. Genesis creates the first AI positive feedback loop in U.S. economic policy. For the first time in history, fiscal policy creates AI acceleration arrow. AI acceleration drives scientific/industrial breakthroughs arrow. Breakthroughs drive productivity arrow. Productivity validates further fiscal expansion arrow. Fiscal expansion reinforces Treasury power. This is a self-reinforcing liquidity engine, and it has several implications. 1. Treasury-led liquidity becomes permanent. Projects of this scale require multi-decade spending, multi-year subsidy programs, long-term industrial partnerships. This replaces short-term Fed cycles with long-term Treasury cycles. 2. Genesis programs become politically untouchable because they are tied to national security, technological competitiveness, workforce productivity, energy independence, reshoring and supply chain sovereignty. Any administration will fund Genesis. This locks in fiscal dominance. 3. Scientific breakthroughs justify further deficits. If AI-driven research produces new materials, better batteries, fusion progress, semiconductor breakthroughs, biomedical innovations, then deficits become investments, not spending. This reframes Treasury borrowing as strategic capital, not debt. 4. Genesis accelerates the creditism flywheel. Duncan's model becomes credit arrow, AI-driven innovation arrow, output arrow, asset inflation arrow, more credit. Genesis multiplies each leg of the loop. 5. Inside the Genesis architecture, how it actually works. Genesis runs 6 major pillars, each of which expands state capacity. 1. High-performance computing integration. DOE's supercomputers plus cloud-based AI clusters form training environments, simulation engines, inference clusters, secure national compute. This is sovereign AI hardware. 2. Foundation models across scientific domains. Genesis builds domain-specific foundation models for materials, chemistry, climate, nuclear physics, manufacturing, biotech, semiconductors. Each model acts like a brain for that domain. 3. AI agents for autonomous research. These agents explore design spaces, generate hypotheses, run simulations, evaluate experimental outcomes, automate R&D pipelines. This turns scientific workflows from manual to autonomous. 4. Secure, unified federal datasets. Genesis integrates proprietary federal datasets, national lab databases, synthetic data, digitized archives, experimental results. This data is the fuel for AI acceleration. 5. Robotic laboratories and AI-augmented manufacturing. Genesis is building autonomous labs, robotic experiment loops, AI-directed production, automated materials synthesis. This turns the physical lab into a software-like environment. 6. National-level security standards and access controls. The system is built with classification protocols, privacy standards, supply chain controls, cybersecurity layers, export controls. Genesis is not open source. It is not decentralized. It is strategically centralized. This is essential for the Treasury regime. 6. Genesis and national security. The dual-use doctrine. Genesis is explicitly framed as strengthening national security, achieving energy dominance, restoring technological supremacy, protecting the industrial base. This allows the Treasury to justify massive spending, control strategic industries, direct liquidity to priority sectors, override the Fed's concerns about inflation. National security trumps monetary orthodoxy. This gives Treasury a blank check. 7th, Genesis is the decisive factor in Treasury's victory over the Fed. The Federal Reserve cannot match unified datasets, sovereign compute, industrial coordination, fiscal mission alignment, AI-accelerated discovery, defense industrial integration, tariff-linked revenue, political legitimacy. The Fed has rates, balance sheet tools, speeches. The Treasury has money, industry, national security, AI infrastructure, the Genesis mission, White House backing. In modern macro, tools that create real output always overpower tools that merely dampen it. Genesis gives Treasury output power. The Fed cannot compete. 8. What Genesis means for markets, 2025 to 2035. Genesis creates sectoral liquidity gravity wells, meaning capital will consistently flow toward Treasury-prioritized domains, including AI infrastructure, energy systems, materials sciences, semiconductors, biotech, quantum, advanced manufacturing, defense technologies. These sectors will become structurally supported, politically protected, fiscally subsidized, narrative-backed, liquidity-favored. This is how bull markets begin. This is the new investment regime. 9. The Chapter 3 summary. Genesis is the largest expansion of state capacity in 70 years. It integrates compute, data, science, and industry into a single national platform. It gives Treasury the tools needed to run an industrial economy. It accelerates research and production across strategic domains. It supports permanent fiscal dominance. It creates structural demand for liquidity. It weakens the Fed's macro authority. It forms the backbone of the new Treasury-led monetary order. It will shape markets for the next 2 decades. Genesis is not a scientific program. It is the operating system of the new macro regime.